So go out there, convince them to fight with us against the Skyans, and do it before it's too late. Beast of Zakor.
Elex II is the sequel to the 2017 story-driven action RPG Elex from Piranha Bytes. The original Elex had a great mix of sci-fi and fantasy, and is hugely underrated in my opinion. It did have a few problems, but I had a great time playing it. Elex II releases on March 2nd, 2022, and so far there have been a few trailers and a gameplay demo to give us an idea of what to expect. Elex II takes place several years after the events of the first game, and sees you return to the post-apocalyptic world of Magalan. You are back in the shoes of Jax. He's been living in exile, but apparently not alone, as he managed to father a child called Dex.
I'm not sure I should tell you.
Even so, he seems to be living like a bit of a hermit, and apparently still has a habit of falling off cliffs. When a new threat emerges from the sky and unleashes the dangerous powers of Dark Elex, a force that threatens all life on the planet, Jax has to dust off his jetpack and set off to convince the factions to unite against these new invaders. The game has of course had a significant graphical upgrade from the first title, but even so they do seem to have done an excellent job of capturing the same feel. Magalan always felt rough, dirty and dangerous to me. It was post-apocalyptic without being too in your face about it. There were ruins of the old world here and there, but there was also a nice variety to the landscape. I am looking forward to seeing how they've expanded upon this. The world was pretty large before, but I feel they will need to add more, especially when you factor in their changes to the jetpack. The jetpack was a big part of the first game, and they seem to have taken it to all new heights. Before, your jetpack gave you a short burst of thrust that would allow you to jump higher or glide over gaps. Now they claim you will be able to explore Magalan with unprecedented freedom, as these short thrusts no longer limit you. You can channel your inner birdie and fly about to your heart's content. To go along with this new flight mechanic, they have also added aerial combat. From the early gameplay footage we are seeing so far, I have to say that it does look as though it could be pretty fun. The ranged combat is a little static as you would expect when sniping targets from afar, but the melee combat looks pretty fun. Speaking of combat, if it's anything like the first game, you can expect to be dying a lot, or running away from every mob you meet for the first few levels. It'll be interesting to see if they make any tweaks to the difficulty scaling here. I kind of hope they don't, as I actually liked the difficulty at the beginning of the original. It helped you feel that you were getting stronger and progressing, when you could finally one-hit the rats that were one-hitting you at the start of the game. They have said that there will be, and I quote, a massively improved combat system this time around. The combat was pretty clunky before, so this is pretty nice to hear. We haven't seen much footage of combat outside of the aerial stuff, so we'll have to wait and see if they release any more information about this. One takeaway from the gameplay footage though is that magic seems to be a lot more accessible this time around, and hopefully it will play a much bigger part. Companions will once again play a big part in the game, and it will be interesting to see if any familiar faces make a return. If not as a companion, then at least as an NPC of some sort. They claim the world will feel very lived in, and NPCs will remember what you do and react accordingly. Companions will join or leave your party depending on how you behave, and you'll be free to murder anyone you like, which will affect how the story plays out. Hopefully Piranha will handle this better than Obsidian did in the Outer Worlds, as that was pretty disappointing. You could kill whoever you wanted, and everyone would just carry on as if you hadn't just blown someone's head off in the town square. If your actions will carry consequences as they claim, then it should be a much more interesting system. I would assume that there will have to be some limits to this though, else the game would just end up broken if we could run around murdering every NPC on the map. Speaking of NPCs, the original factions are back. The Berserkers, the Clerics, the Outlaws, and the Albs. But there have been some changes. The Berserkers have expanded their territories, converting the barren desert home to the Outlaws into a beautiful forest with one of their world hearts. This caused the Outlaws to fracture into smaller groups. Some stayed in their transformed home and joined the Berserkers, whilst others moved away to continue their lawless way of life. The clerics seemed to be much the same, even though Jax revealed the truth of their god. They continue to follow their teachings and carry out their mission to save Magaland from the people who follow their own lesser instincts. A big change this time is that you can choose to join with the Albs. They're no longer the jacked up crackheads they were in the first game. Now they use far less Elex and show more emotions. This should open the way for us to use all the cool tech that we were fighting against in the first game, and will probably be a popular choice for people to align with as it allows for something new. There is also a new faction that you'll have to bring to the table, the Morkons. They were once the peaceful inhabitants of Thompson Town, but when the meteor that brought the Elex hit, they sought refuge underground and have lived there ever since, following strict rules to survive. Over time, they became a vicious and maniacal tribe, and now believe they need to destroy all the infidels that don't believe in their strict rules. It's nice to see a new faction in the game, and from the sounds of it, it might be quite a challenge to bring them peacefully into an alliance with the other factions. So who is the enemy this time? Well, that would be the Skyans. They come from the sky, in case you couldn't guess, and they wield the power of Dark Elex, which is a more aggressive form of the usual blue Elex that everyone else uses. The Dark Elex infests everything around it, plants, animals, even people, and when they're infected, they change. Some die, and some become Skyans. They bring with them enormous formers that they use to terraform Magaland. They're incredibly powerful, ruthless, determined and strategic, and therefore are pretty much invincible. Their goal seems to be to transform all of Magaland. They have no morals, no belief system. They only know their goal, and they do everything they can to reach it. This all makes them sound like some sort of parasitic hive mind, and they should make for a pretty exciting enemy. The stakes have definitely been raised this time around with the whole world in danger, and hopefully, if these cutscenes of a huge war are hinting at anything, we can hope to see some pretty large scale battles. Overall, Elex II looks like it's shaping up to be another great RPG. I really am a big fan of the original game, and if you haven't played it yet, it's definitely worth a try, especially if Elex II has caught your interest in any way. They seem to have acknowledged the issues people had with the first game, such as the clunky combat, and are seeking to improve upon these issues whilst adding a whole new load of lore-heavy story content. I would say Elex II is definitely one to put on your watch list, and with the release for PC, the PlayStations and the Xboxes being March 2nd, 2022, there isn't really too long to wait. That's all I have to say on Elex II for now. I hope you enjoyed the video, please give it a like if you did, and make sure to subscribe for more reviews and news on upcoming games. That's all from me on this one, I'll see you in the next one.